My job is all about purpose.
Just the ability to make a difference, to help someone be able to go home at the end of the day.
My great-grandfather started the volunteer fire department in Springfield, Nebraska. My grandmother was a nurse. My uncle was a fire chief in Atlanta, Georgia. So somewhere down the line, it was my purpose to be doing this.
Yeah, we're a family here.
The data we get from Rapid SOS is life-saving.
Have you ever met a 911 professional and asked, what's the worst call you've ever taken? Well, here's your answer. I heard your last breath the night you flipped your four-wheeler. I tried to call you the day you committed suicide by driving your car into a tree. Blue face, cold to the touch. I helped you with CPR after you found your infant face down, not breathing. It messed me up. I did everything I could, but it wasn't enough. You were with me from the beginning, Grandma. 27 years later, I took the 911 call when you died. How fitting to be there for me in the beginning, and I was there for you in the end. I miss you, Grandma. I am 911. This is but a glimpse into the world of emergency dispatch. But what is it really like to answer a call during someone's nightmare? What is the impact of the first responder answering the call? Available on Amazon or where you purchase your favorite books and ebooks. Imagine listening. Your worst day is our everyday.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
But a couple of the deputies that I was really close with, they saw the signs and they checked on me. And I was doing my job. I was highly functioning, and I was laughing, and I was smiling, and I was baking cookies for my coworkers, and I was doing things for them, and I was struggling, and I was dying on the inside. And about a year and a half of this goes by, and one of my very, very best friends in Illinois dies. And he died of cancer 4 days after he turned 40. And my boss would not let me go to his funeral. And I looked at her and I said, I don't know why you hate me so much. I've never done anything but give my life for this job.
Welcome to Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them.
Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and this is Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them. This episode is sponsored by Rapid SOS, Safer Together, your leading public safety company in AI, and a big shout out to subscribers. As always, thank you all very, very much for everything. This episode is going to be coming out a little bit early because on Wednesday, the 17th, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, we will have this month's Public Safety Showcase exclusively in the Trenches community. So if you are not part of this free community yet, make sure to head over to links, and that's links with 2 i's.co/IM911. Scroll down just a little bit and you will see a link there to the Trenches community. Once again, it is free, and we are going to have multiple discussions. And the discussions are going to be pretty deep. And it's going to go along with what we're talking about today, which is why it's going out early, so that we can have as many people there as possible. So I will say right off the bat, as you're listening to this, if you have PTSD or suicidal tendencies, you are listening at your own risk. If you feel that you need to skip this episode, go ahead and do so. However, Again, we are going to be talking about something that doesn't always get talked about. And it's something that's probably been happening for years, but the visibility is more so out there now. And I've got a guest with me here today as well, as we go through this episode, because we're going to be talking about 911 dispatcher suicide, what it looks like, the hard truth, possible solutions, just a conversation, because conversations like this need to happen. And I will say right off the bat as well, if you are struggling out there, please know that there is support. You are loved. Stay, please. You can always dial 988. Reach out to someone, or for someone who is watching and listening, if you haven't heard from someone in a while, reach out to them. But let's continue here. So my guest today is a returning guest, a good friend of mine who actually, I'll mention this towards the end of something that she sent me recently. But my guest today is Donna, and she is a 911 professional out of Texas. Yo.
Hey.
I was going to mention that, but I thought, you know what? It's going to be a heavy conversation, so maybe I'll mention that at the end instead.
Yeah, maybe we'll have our own open mic at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Yes,
Laughter,
for sure.
right?
Right. Yes, laughing is good medicine. So, let's jump right in.
Okay.
The hard truth, and it's, why do you think dispatcher suicide is still not just still, but is something in general that people whisper about? Is it just that, because we both know that this has probably been happening for years? It's just dispatch has in general been kind of pushed to the side a bit. It wasn't until about 2016 on till now that more and more and more people are hearing about dispatch, what they do, why they do it, how important their job is, what it is actually really like, what is going on. Because for years you hear about fire and EMS and police, mostly police, about suicide rates, all of that. So bringing it back in, why do you think dispatch hasn't really been talked about a lot?
I think that it probably goes all the way back to the beginning of dispatch and how, sorry, Murphy is
No problem.
Murphy's interjecting about how so many people still see dispatchers as you're just operators. You just answer the phone. You don't see it. You don't interact with it. You're only taking phone calls from people. And it's so not true. And it's yes, we are taking phone calls, but we're living it as well, and we're hearing the hard things, and in fact we're hearing it first. We're hearing the screams, the trauma before any of the other responders, which is why so many of us call ourselves the first responders. And in fact, we're hearing it immediately and dealing with the chaos of the scene that quite often is calm or calmer when police, fire, and EMS get on scene. So we're able to calm the situation down before they get there.
Mm-hmm.
And we go from one call to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next without a break and without getting the resolution. We don't get the rest of the story, the Paul Harvey quote, for those of us who are old like me. And if you're, like many dispatchers, we also get my name is, my address is, and we get the gunshot. the sound of someone hanging, we get that. And that is absolutely horrific. I've taken so many of those calls. And those people who tell us you're just a secretary, you're just an operator, you just answer phones. I would love for them to come sit down in my seat, put my headset on, and take this phone call, please. And
Right.
then tell me how you feel afterwards.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting about that as well is you have folks come in and they will immediately tell you, I could never do what you do.
Exactly.
I could never do this. And so then, to that, I ask, well, then why were you giving a shit to begin with?
Exactly.
And a lot of times it'll be played off as, well, I'm just messing with you.
I
Like,
was
no,
just
I get it. But
joking.
if I were saying the same thing to you, like, don't get me wrong, it takes a lot to offend me, and I've got a great sense of humor. But after a little while, it starts to eat at you a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
do you really think this? Do you,
Yeah.
And I think one of those things as well. So two things here from my side is I think one of the big things, which is why conversations like this are very important, and all the other conversations that we've had, but that still the public and those out in the field, they don't realize how much trauma that we carry
Mhm.
throughout these calls.
Yeah.
Even though all of these stories have gone out there, I think sometimes people, like, they hear them and they just think, "Oh man, that's crazy." And
Yeah.
then they just move on, but it's like, "No, dude, like, this stuff is real. Like, this
Yeah.
really does happen."
It
Which is why
does.
I continue to share as much as possible so that I can help people understand. But the other thing too, I think it is the expectation where we always a lot of people will say we are the calm voice. We are the calm voice in the chaos or in the storm. And I think that without us saying it, I think that is almost the expectation.
Mhm.
So because that's the expectation, we hold on to that because we're expected to be that calm voice and not break. But in the back of my mind, man, I'm freaking out just like you
Exactly.
because I'm human.
And that right there, I'm human. And it's so hard sometimes, because I've been doing this a really long time. And sometimes I feel like I have lost part of my humanity. And then I'm like, nope, it's still there. It's right there. Oh, there she is.
Yeah.
In some ways you feel like you've lost part of your humanity. In other ways, um you gain a different side of humanity, if that makes sense. And yeah, a lot of my deputies throughout the years are like, I could never do your job. I could never do your job. And I'm really lucky that the deputies that I'm close with at my agency now have a really huge respect for dispatch. There are deputies who are like, oh, dispatch. And,
Yeah.
and it's like that everywhere. And I find that the deputies and officers and first responders who are like dispatch, they're the ones who need us the most.
Mhm.
But the majority of them have a huge, healthy respect for us and for what we do. And they're like, I could never do your job. And even my husband is like, I could not do what you do. And he deals with people all day, every day at work, but in a different way. And yeah, we're expected to be calm and soothing and everything else, but on the inside, I'm freaking out. And like and this, because you and I talked the other day, when I took that 911 call, I was crying. I am crying on the phone. And I'm like, you've been doing this 29 years and you are still crying. Like, you have tears going down your face. And I won't let the person on the other end of the phone know that I am crying with them, but I am still human.
Mm-hmm.
And what I don't think a lot of people realize is that there are so many of us who are in dispatch who are true natural empaths. And we got into dispatch however we got into dispatch. You know how I got into dispatch, how it was just completely accidental. But I stayed in dispatch because I was able to provide help, and to help people in ways that I needed help with my own trauma and my own issues in my personal life. And that's the thing about that's a huge thing with dispatch and with first responders, is we are human. We have lives outside of the job. And even if we are able to compartmentalize and leave our lives outside, they still sneak their way in through the cracks. And it's truly hard to leave it at home 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And it is still going to affect you in some ways. And so, right now, we know that the number of dispatchers reported as committed suicide this year is 10. The reported number is 10. I think that number is probably higher. And the why is huge. I think it has so much more to do with what's going on inside of each of them. And we can get into the why, but it sucks, and it's something that it's been there all along. I've seen it, first responder suicide, and it's something that we need to figure it out. We need to figure out what we can do, not as first responders, not as dispatchers, but as human beings.
I agree. As our thin gold line family, we need to, do more, figure this out for sure, like you're saying. And you're right. We have been seeing that the number is 10 folks. And I do want to say this. I think you'll agree with this a little bit, is for anyone who's watching and listening to this, if you find out that the number climbs higher, I think my only hope would be that people wouldn't just throw out a number.
Yeah.
Just put it out there and say, well, here's number whatever. Because in my mind, by doing that, I don't care if you want to be the first one to put it out there so that you get clout or whatever. That I don't know. All I'm saying is that by just putting it out there as a number, in my mind, you're lessening that person's death.
Yes.
By making them a statistic, and you're just making them a number, and that is, to me, that's not cool. I don't like that. I know that not everyone is going to know the circumstances or anything. At the very least, wait until the agency, the family, or whoever says, here's a little bit of information, even if you say, we've lost another person
Yeah.
in whatever state or something like that, but just by putting a number and just leaving it, that lessens that person's death, and simply that doesn't even make them human anymore.
It
You've
doesn't.
you've made them a number.
Yeah.
So please, for anyone who's watching and listening, if you know that the number has gone up, at least wait or something. Give a little bit more context. Region, I don't know, something. Add a little more, because that number is it's insulting. And it's a slap to the face of not just the person who passed away, but their family, their friends, and everyone else, all the way until you get to the thin gold line family of that person, because we're all brothers and sisters of this profession. And so that part has kind of sucked a little bit. It's just in my mind, that's just the way I feel. I don't know how anybody else feels, but it just feels like it lessens it a little bit, the situation and that person in general, by just making them a statistic. Now, as you were saying, it kind of goes along with this next question, digging deeper into it. What does struggle actually look like? Because people always imagine that struggle looks like someone who is completely broken, hasn't had sleep, is, maybe they haven't showered in a while and their hair's all jacked or whatever, or for example, I had this airplane incident that happened with me, and I turned it into a talk. And what it was checking in on each other and supporting each other, because as my plane was going down, making that emergency landing, like, I actually have a video of where the plane is landing and all the police, fire, and EMS are following that plane. And I make the comparison that plane going down, because before that, I'm telling you everything that happened while we're making that emergency landing, while we're going down super fast and we have no idea what's going on. People are saying goodbye on their phones. We've got our oxygen masks on, but you would never know that looking at the plane itself in that video. And it just happened to work perfectly that you've got fire, EMS, and police following that plane, almost as a metaphor of the help that's trying to get out there to you, that sometimes you don't listen to. You're just moving away. But you would never know that anything happened on that plane unless I used my voice and opened up and actually told you about it. Basically, what I'm saying is that we move around in life like nothing is going on.
Yep.
And you would never know that anything is going on with someone unless you ask them. And a lot of times you can ask someone, hey, how's it going? And they'll go,
Yeah,
it's going all right.
I'm fine.
And you feel the vibe. And a lot of times people don't do it, but I would be like, are you sure? You sure you're all right? Things okay? Like, you'll notice like just little things, right? And the person would go, well, and that's because, and I always tell people, like, especially after a call, I'm guilty of doing it as well. I changed later on when I started working on me and things started becoming therapeutic, opening up and such. But before, I was the same way. Hey, Ricardo, are you all right? Yeah, of course I'm fine. Like, this is just another day, man. We're just another. Oh, I got another call coming in. But on the inside, I'm dying. Like, that it fucked me up. But I didn't want anybody to know, because I didn't want anyone to think I was weak. I didn't want anyone to think that I couldn't hack it anymore. And when I started opening up and people started talking more, and then I would ask people, and like I was saying, what I tell people is, ask them again, are you sure? Or, is everything okay? Something like that, because it might be that repeat question that allows that person to feel comfortable enough to open up. Because it's someone who is struggling, it doesn't look like what you would think. Sometimes that struggle comes in smiles. Yep. Sometimes that struggle comes in, hey, how's it going? But on the inside, they are burnt out.
Yep.
That things are so. So my question: what does struggle actually look like? Is it isolation? Is it when someone is calling off more? Are they a little more quiet? Angry outbursts? Like what are your thoughts?
Struggle looks like me. So, um, here's a story. Um,
Tell me. Tell me.
in 2013, my dad died, and
My condolences.
um, he was pretty much my best friend. And I was just recently out of a relationship that was not completely healthy. The guy was a high functioning alcoholic, life of the party. He was such a cool guy. Everybody loved him, but he could drink um, a 24 pack and a bottle of bourbon a weekend. And and I thought that, I had to keep up with him. And it was not working for me. And so, I broke it off and I was trying to find my way. And then my dad unexpectedly dies. And I come back to work, and my first phone call, my first 911 call back on shift, is a woman whose husband um, dropped dead of a heart attack. And that was how my dad died. And I finished the phone call. I go into my boss's office and I'm like, I can't do this today. Can't do it. Not ready to come back. And she basically told me to suck it up and go back, and she wouldn't let me leave.
What?
Yeah. So I called back in and finished my shift, and started to die a little inside. And kept coming to work and slowly dying a little inside, and started making completely stupid decisions, and entered into an extremely toxic relationship with somebody who was very abusive in many ways and controlling. And I promoted to supervisor at my agency at the same time, and was told on my first day as a supervisor that my boss did not want to promote me, and she did not want me as a supervisor, and she wanted to promote anybody but me, but was told to promote me because I was the most qualified. Died a little more inside. And when I'm not at work, I am punishing myself physically. I'm in this abusive relationship. I am struggling, and I'm coming to work, and not one of my coworkers asked me how I was doing. And you could see the physical changes. At first, I lost a lot of weight. And I remember one of the deputies that I was really, really close with put his hand around my wrist and said, I could break your arm right now just by squeezing. And not one of my immediate coworkers asked how I was doing. And then my hair started falling out. And then my immediate supervisors started keeping book on me and everything that I was doing wrong. And my boss started bullying me. And this went on for over a year. And I developed an ulcer. And then I started gaining weight. And then the guy that I was seeing, then he sexually assaulted me. And then he started stalking me and breaking into my house and calling me at all times when I was at work. And then I started thinking about suicide. And I told one of the deputies that I was really close with what I was thinking. And then they started sleeping on my couch because they were scared. The deputies were. And none of my coworkers checked on me. None of my coworkers asked me how I was doing. But a couple of the deputies that I was really close with, they saw the signs and they checked on me. And I was doing my job. I was highly functioning, and I was laughing, and I was smiling, and I was baking cookies for my coworkers, and I was doing things for them, and I was struggling, and I was dying on the inside. And about a year and a half of this goes by, and one of my very, very best friends in Illinois dies. And he died of cancer 4 days after he turned 40. And my boss would not let me go to his funeral. And I looked at her and I said, I don't know why you hate me so much. I've never done anything but give my life for this job. And that's when I made the decision that I needed to get out. And that's when I made the decision. And right around the same time, I met the man that I'm now married to. I had gotten out of the abusive relationship shortly after he sexually assaulted me. The deputy that I was really good friends with helped me get out of that. The courts wouldn't give me a restraining order or anything like that because the court system sucks. And they slept on my couch for about 6 months. A couple of them took turns to make sure that I wouldn't hurt myself. And some other things happened that I don't want to talk about. But I made the decision. I had to physically remove myself. And I moved to Texas. And it took a long, long time. And now I'm here. And I am still healing. I am very, very open about mental health and suicidal thoughts and anxiety and PTSD and therapy. I am in therapy. I have complex PTSD, and I still struggle with it. I struggle with an eating disorder. I struggle with all of that. And I am absolutely open about all of that. And I am absolutely 150% open about you check on your coworkers. You see the signs. And if you say there are no signs, you are lying to yourselves. We work side by side with the same people 10, 12, 14, sometimes 16 hours a day. And you see the behavior changes. You see the physical changes in somebody. And if you don't check on them, you're not a good human being. It's no one else's job. And people who are blaming dispatcher suicides on administration are copping out. It's not administration's fault. It's no one's fault And it's no one's job but our own to check on each other. My coworkers should have checked on me. They should have asked, "Are you okay?" Those 3 words, "Are you okay?" And ask them again, like you said. Ask them over and over and over. And if that person keeps saying, "I'm fine," ask them the next day. And ask them the next day. Because one day that person will finally break down their shields and they will tell you, "I'm not okay." Because sometimes the call is coming from inside the house. I was not okay. And I'm still not okay. But you know what? I'm okay. I'm okay with not being okay. I am beautifully and perfectly broken. And I'm really awesome.
Yes, you are. And you are managing through this. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with as well, or maybe get some things um just kind of jumbled a little bit in the thoughts of, if I'm working on this, I need to be it needs to be perfect. Like I have to be feel like I'm completely okay
Yeah.
to be okay. But you can not be okay and be okay, meaning
Exactly.
you can still be healing and finding things therapeutic while struggling with some of this stuff, because it's not always it's not going to fully ever go away. Even
No.
myself, all of these episodes, everything that I do, that continues to be therapeutic for me, because this next month is June 14th right now. Next month, July 22nd, on my dad's birthday, will be the anniversary of my last day in dispatch. I'm going on 13 years out of dispatch, but dispatch here doesn't go away.
Yeah.
The sounds from some calls remain.
Yeah.
I shared a story a while back, and in that Business Insider thing that I did, talking about what dispatchers are actually like, where I mentioned this call where it was a girl who was being stalked by her ex-boyfriend. She runs to hide in the basement, and he rings the doorbell, and it rattles my ear to the point where I remember cringing and my whole body shaking. Like that's how loud it was in my ear. Years later, I'm in a hardware store and someone is testing doorbells, and I hear it, and I had that same feeling, and I was shot right back
Yeah.
to that basement where she was hiding and where I was helping her. Those things remain,
They do.
but the more you talk about it, when you're ready, of course, the more you talk about these things, the more you can manage those feelings. So you can have a completely fine day. Maybe you have a trigger or something that happens, but the trigger isn't as tough or hard because you're talking through it, you're managing it. And that's what we're talking about here, as even what you're saying with, I'm okay with not being okay because I am okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm managing it, and that's what that means. And I'm explaining it too, because I know people might hear this and be like, I don't understand. What do you
Yeah.
what?
I
Like
I
I don't get it.
I use my brokenness to help people through theirs.
Yeah.
And I think that that makes me, how did I explain it? I explained it one time like my brokenness makes me better and it makes me more empathetic because I am broken and I'm willing to admit that I'm broken. And it sounds so weird, crazy. And yeah, like some people are going to be like, I don't get it. Like this woman is absolutely insane.
I think it's because we're able to end up relating on a human
Yes.
level versus someone who hasn't come to terms
Yeah.
with some of the things that are going on. Because as I've said in the past, nobody wants to look in the mirror and realize, oh, it's me.
Yeah.
Some
I'm the
of
problem.
some of this is actually me.
Yeah.
And because nobody wants to feel like that. And I think that's why. So another question that I had here was, why is it so hard to ask for help? And I think it goes along with this because there's that fear of being judged, the
Mhm.
fear of losing respect, right? Or fear of being seen weak. As I mentioned before, one might even think, I answer emergencies, I don't want to be one.
Yeah.
But
And
that type of mentality, it like, that's what also breaks people.
yeah, it is. And like, and I started, I like to call it back in the wild, wild west days of law enforcement when, it was shove it down. You're fine. There's nothing to cry about. There's no crying in dispatch,
Hmm.
and you move on. And you don't talk about this shit. Why are you talking about your feelings, for God's sake? Um, and there was no such thing as peer support, debriefings. We didn't have debriefings. The first debriefing I went to was in like 2010 or 11, and I'd already been in law enforcement for like 13 years at that point. So, there were none of this like sit around holding hands singing kumbaya bullshit. They didn't do that. Um, and now I work for an agency that has 2 full-time peer support deputies. We have a mental health wellness program. We have a program where they offer free acupuncture and free anonymous therapy sessions to all sheriff's office employees each year, and like they are realizing, our sheriff realizes and encourages mental health wellness. If they had said to me 29 years ago that your mental health wellness is just as important as your physical wellness, and like I grew up in a family where it's like you don't talk about your feelings. When I first told my mother when I lived in California and I told her on the phone that I was going to a therapist, she hung up on me because we didn't talk about our feelings in my family. And you certainly do not share your feelings with an outsider.
Mm.
Like you do not go to therapy. My mother was so pissed off that I was in therapy until the day she died. I did not talk to her about the fact that I went to a therapist, because you don't talk about your problems unless you want to, advertise them on Facebook, and then it's fine. Um,
It makes it
and
official, right?
yeah, then it's official. Um, but because you're seen as weak, and no, there is no admitting weakness. But talking about your problems makes you stronger. And I truly believe that, because I think the more we hold them in, the more we internalize them. I don't know if you've heard of the book The Body Keeps the Score.
It sounds familiar. I think someone's mentioned it to me before, but
Yeah.
it was a long time ago.
Yeah. The more we internalize our problems, the more they wreak havoc physically on our body. And, they manifest themselves in so many different ways. And it sounds hokey, and it just sounds all woo woo, but I really believe that.
Hmm.
And the things that I did to myself when I was going through like the darkest period of my life, my body has never truly recovered from. And I have to live with that. I have scars. And some of the scars I've covered with tattoos, and some of the scars I live with. So
I love that we're having this conversation and going as deep as we are, because I just know that there's going to be someone listening to this who is probably struggling and can relate. And well, don't be surprised if people would start reaching out to you.
I
But
want them to. I mean,
yeah, and that's a good thing, of course. And so I have to ask this too, because we were kind of talking about this a little bit, but let's dig a little deeper into it. So, what do you wish someone had told you? Like, if you could sit next to every dispatcher or those who are listening right now, like, what would you tell them? Like, just, I guess, for example, um, asking for help isn't weakness. Or, like you said, you had told your mom that you were going to therapy and she hung up. She was upset. But for anybody else, you know, therapy is not failure. Things like that. If one, what do you wish someone had told you? And if you were sitting next, or dispatchers were listening, which they are, what is something that you would say in that manner?
there are so many things that I would say. Um,
Because I think one of those biggest things is that people tend to think that if you're going to therapy, you failed.
yeah.
And that, no, that's
Yeah.
not what it is at all.
Therapy is actually therapy is therapeutic.
Oh,
Real
no
quick.
way.
Um, my God. It's actually it's really, don't beat yourself up if you don't beat your oh my God, don't beat yourselves up if you get emotional over a call. Don't beat yourselves up if you take a call to heart. Don't beat yourselves up if a caller yells at you and you take it personally. Don't beat yourselves up if you feel like you do need to ask for help and your coworker doesn't. Maybe your coworker is asking for help, but they're not telling anybody because they're too chicken. Your coworker might be a chicken shit and not want to tell anybody. And if you don't feel comfortable, like Ricardo said, if you don't feel comfortable going to your coworkers, you can reach out to me. Like, I'm a total stranger, and that might be the best thing. Everybody talks about toxicity in the workplace, and yes, dispatch centers can be toxic workplaces because for some reason there's a mean girl mentality, and I don't know why. And I wish there was not a mean girl mentality in the dispatch center. And it's been there in the over 29 years that I've been in dispatch, and I would be a billionaire if I could figure out a way to not have the mean girl mentality in dispatch centers. And the mean girl mentality does not come from admin. It comes from each other, and it comes from your coworkers thinking that they are better than you, but they are not. The coworkers who think that they are better than you are just projecting their own insecurities onto you. So if you don't feel comfortable going to your coworkers, go to a complete stranger. And you can absolutely reach out to me. You can reach out to me through Ricardo, reach out to me through Within the Trenches. I will absolutely talk to anybody, because if anybody is struggling, if anybody, I can absolutely relate to anybody who's struggling. I don't want anybody to struggle. And like Ricardo said at the very beginning, each and every one of you, you're needed and you're wanted, and we totally want you to stay. And I wish that somebody had said that to me when I was struggling. Just stay. Just stay.
Yeah, don't to build on that as well, like just don't be discouraged by folks who I guess scoff at certain things,
Yeah.
because what I have found, especially in my time of really doing not just the storytelling, sharing stories, but 2016 launching the I Am 911 movement, doing Imagine Listening, especially with Imagine Listening, and having a couple people say, like, come up to me one on one and say, yeah, I understand what you're doing, but it seems like we're just like whining, we knew what we were signing up for. And I remember this person specifically. I said, is that what you think we were doing in there? I said, because if that's what you think we were doing, you completely missed
Yeah.
what we were doing. And the person goes, well, I don't have any issues like that. I take my calls and I do what I do, and that's it, man. They don't come home with me or anything. And I said, okay. I said, well, that might work for you, but it doesn't work for everyone. And a lot of times, those who are saying things like you're saying to me right now, those are the people who have the most struggle. They just haven't come to terms with it yet. And then this person, we stood there for about an hour or so,
Wow.
and that person shared a few stories with me. And then when we were done, I'm just standing there looking at this person, and I said, you realize what we just did here? And the person goes, you know what, keep doing what you're doing. and then they walked away, and I thought, two things. I could have gotten pissed off
Yeah.
and been like, you don't know what we're doing here. Listening to just simply react, right? And respond. But I wanted to listen to understand. I wanted to hear this person out. And then, but I chose the other path and just stood there, heard the person out, added in what I could add in, but it was mostly just simply listening. And then that person came to the realization after I said what I said, and they walked off. And I could have been upset, but I wasn't, because you know what? Maybe this person also had been struggling, and they just needed that one-on-one. Maybe they couldn't do it in a room where everyone is sharing, because maybe they felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Maybe they thought, well, maybe if I share, I might share too hard, and then I'll feel embarrassed or something. And you know what? That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's why I always say, when people are ready, then they can. I'm just glad that they're in there to begin with, because it's in support of everyone else. And I've had people come up to me and say, you know what, I'll see you in your class, and in Imagine Listening. And I'm like, all right, I'll see you there. And they usually will say, especially if it's someone who I know has been there before, they'll usually say, I've been there many, many times. It just feels like whenever I'm in a spot where I can go, it's usually when I need it again. And I'm like, that's what this class is all about. That's what this session is all about. So, we talk about what we would say to certain people, or what we wish, people had told us. And I think that is good as well, where there are a lot of centers who are doing this right off the bat. Because I remember when I first started sharing all of these stories and doing the movement and stuff, there were some people on the West Coast who were like, I can't share this stuff as a way to hire people. And I said, why not? I was like, you're showing the reality of it. And they're like, yeah, exactly. I don't want to scare them off. And I said, wouldn't you rather get someone who really wants to be there instead of wasting your time and training someone, and then you find out that they really didn't want to do it, and they go, well, I guess. But then good friend Roxy comes out of left field and does a recruitment video that actually shows that what it would look like the person saying, I was there with you. And it shows, like, you know, a guy down and their kids around him or whatever as they're going through the call. But she has the dispatcher there. And I was like, this is exactly, you put the visual out there. This is exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I I showed it to those people on the West Coast. I was like, this is how you market it.
Yeah.
Because and this is how you're able to use it to recruit people, because you're giving a glimpse of being something bigger than themselves. And there have been a lot of people who have reached out to me to say, you know, reading these stories, listening to these stories, it gave me inspiration. I don't have anybody in public safety, but I wanted to do this because of those stories, and I wanted to be there. So what I'm getting at is there's a lot more centers that not so much using these stories in a sense, but what I mean is they're laying it all out there right in the beginning. That question that I asked about, you know, what do you wish you were told about this in the beginning? Or if you could tell somebody else something about, like, what would you say? Like, some of these places, some of these centers, the directors, supervisors, whichever, who are in the interview process and have them in training, they are doing this because they're preparing their folks right off the bat so that when they get hit hard with something, they know they have resources, they know they have a support system. That old guard of thinking continues to crumble and crumble since 2016 on. It continues to crumble. There are still places that think that way, but it's getting better, and we just have to continue to have these questions. So I've got 2 questions left.
Okay.
And the second to the last question is, so what actually works? What actually works? And we've talked about some of this a little bit, right? Peer support, professional counseling, taking time off if you can. There are some places that allow you to take some time off to, you know, like, I guess kind of like a lack of a better way to put it, a mental health type break.
Yeah.
And which there are some places where people take advantage of that.
It
happens in every profession, right?
Yeah.
It happens in every profession. All I'm saying is that you can take those, in some places, you can take some of those breaks like that. But checking in beyond, how are you? Like, for yourself, what were some of the things that worked beyond counseling? You know, I will say that I feel as though one way that you are healing is by sending your good friends things like this.
Yes.
Donna and I have known each other for a bit now, and we are homies. And the other day,
we can thank Roxy for that.
Yes, the other day I did a live broadcast. I think it was the coffee chat last week, Monday, in the Trenches community. And we were talking about all these different things. I was talking about Legos and how therapeutic it was, just the process. Like, I was in a moment where I needed something to focus all of this energy and other stress that I had on. And that actually helped. It didn't help my bank account because I got a little obsessed with the Legos. I was buying set after set, and I'm saving this big ass Optimus Prime one for whenever I need it. But Roxy was talking about squishies and stuff, and she mentioned a butter stick, and I was like, what? And then we went on this rabbit hole. Well, here's the butter stick. They've got huge ones that you can actually hold like a child. But Donna hooked me up with this one, and it actually smells like butter popcorn. But it's like a stress squishy, and it's awesome. And all that to say that I feel like part of that healing and everything for you as well is just doing good things for other people. That I think that's part of it.
It is. And on the squishy thing, I'm serious. The next time Michael and I go to Missouri, we're going to Lambert's, and I'm getting you and Roxy the I don't know if you've heard of Lambert's Cafe, home of the throwed rolls.
Oh no.
Oh my God. They
What?
they throw hot rolls. But they have hot roll squishies. And so about a year and a half ago, I bought hot roll squishies for all of my trainees. But I'm buying one for you and Roxy. But no, I do. I love, I do. I love to take care of my friends and my family, and little things like that. Like your HEB goodie box.
Yes, thank you for that. I'm
Um,
so many good things in there.
and like the wall behind me with the paint swatches.
Yes.
When we were talking about it the other day, Michael's like, we really need to just get this painted because these have been up here for about 2 years. And you have to have something. So I read, I have hobbies. Like Amy, I made dog toys for her new puppy, for Raven.
Nice.
I make dog toys because I have to keep my hands busy, especially when I'm like super anxious. Like, you've seen me move my hands a lot with this episode. If I'd been prepared, I probably would have been making dog toys. And I bake, as you know. So I'll bake for work. I'll bake for our security deputies at work. You have to have something outside of dispatch, outside of work, something to occupy your mind, your hands, your heart. And because I find that on the days that, and we've talked about this before, like on the really bad days, what do you do? Well, I drive home in silence. And, Michael, my husband, and I, he knows that when I come home and it's a really bad day, I sit in the garage and for a few minutes, and then I come in the house. And so I can leave it, and then I come inside. And I try my very best to come inside, or I will text him before I come home and I just say, I need a hug. And he knows then it's been a bad day. Because I want to have better ways of dealing with it. No, I still have not so good ways of dealing with it. Because I still do enjoy a drink. Or
choir practice.
Choir practice.
Yeah.
Yes, I still go to choir practice. And I do shop. I do still spend money. Sometimes a little too much.
Thanks, Amazon and Target.
Yeah. Love you, Amazon. Love you, TikTok shop. Damn it. But no, you have to, and laughter. I love to laugh, and I love to cry. And I know that sounds so weird, but sometimes crying is so much better if you can just cry it out. And then sometimes I hug my dogs. I'll come home and I'll just play with the dogs. Or, I will send memes back and forth with one of the deputies, or with Amy and Erica, who I'm getting really close with now, and we just meme it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Or we send cottage cheese recipes back and forth constantly.
Yes, Erica loves her cottage cheese.
So do I, man. You have to find that thing or that special group of people, and you hold on. And I've gotten into boxing, and so I I box. And so, I mean, and you have to have something outside of work.
I love that.
Yeah. And
So,
on really bad days,
yeah.
I come home and I go straight into the bathtub. You know, I did spend how much money on bath stuff in Vegas?
That's a different episode
That's
altogether.
a different episode altogether.
Yeah.
I'll take a bubble bath and I'll just sit in the bathtub and read.
Those are good, healthy ways
Yeah.
to, like I said, things that work.
Yeah.
And I love that we got a chance to do this and
Me
talk
too.
about this. And I'm looking forward to the conversation that we have with the live audience and getting even
too.
deeper into a lot of this stuff as well. We only have an hour, but
I know it's going to go by so fast.
yeah, it is going to go by fast. So the last question that I have as we go into the wrap up of this episode has just been powerful and impactful. Why do you still believe that this profession is worth saving?
We do so much good. We do so much good for so many people. And for that thank you, that rare thank you that we get from people, yeah, I mean, this profession is worth saving. I mean, we do so much good in the world. And I don't think people realize that. We are an underrated profession. We do we are truly unsung heroes. And we put a lot of good out there. So we have to be good to ourselves.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Thank you, my friend, so much for being on today. It has
Thank
been
you.
awesome to have you on and chat and get into this where we just need to keep the conversation going.
We do.
I appreciate you, and I thank you for the butter stick again.
I appreciate you and everything you're doing for us.
Thank you. It has been an honor, a humbling experience, and I will not stop.
Here's to 10 more years and
Yeah.
10 more years after that, man.
Hell yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I will be right back here with you in just one moment.
All right.
And for those who are watching and listening, if you have any comments, questions, you ever want to be a guest on the show, whether you are new to dispatch, seasoned, or retired, I would love to have you on as a guest to share your story. I've been doing this for over a decade, and it is my passion. So thank you for everything that you do. But you can do all of this by going to links, and that's links with 2i's.co/IAM911. You'll find email there. You'll find my social media. You'll find where to hear the latest episodes of Within the Trenches podcast, as well as Imagine Listening. And you'll find the link to the free community, the Trenches. And the Public Safety Showcase is coming up. That will be on the 17th of this month, June. And if you're listening to this and it's already passed, you can still join for free and go back there and watch all of the sessions that are going to be on there. There's also over 200 hours of continuing education that are from all the Dare to Be Greats that I've done. Also 45 rounds, which 46 is going to be coming up. That'll be with my good friend Dawn, and she's going to be doing a session. We'll be discussing a session that she does called Zero Suicide Kits. So don't want to miss that one. But again, if it's already past the time, you'll be able to check that out there. That'll be June 23rd that we're doing that. So again, Thank you all very much for everything. Big shout out to subscribers. Shout out to our sponsor, Rapid SOS, Safer Together, the leading public safety company with AI. And also, again, just in closing, if you're struggling, please reach out. Stay, because we need you. And there are people out there who love and support you. And if you haven't heard from someone in a while, reach out to them. If you ask them if they're okay and they just say that they're okay, the common answer that you always get, ask them again, because it could be that one question, that second ask, that makes them feel comfortable to open up. One is too many, and we have 10 911 professionals who have passed away in this year. And some good friends of mine out of Ohio once told me there's too many of us to feel alone. So with that said, if you're feeling alone, again, reach out, but know that there are many of us out here who understand and are willing to listen. And I might have the mic at the moment, but if you need to, I will hand you the mic and I will just simply listen. So thank you for what you do, all of you. And we will see you all in the next one.
Imagine listening to someone's worst day every single day. Imagine listening as someone experiences life, through their worst nightmare to the miracle of birth or a life saved. I'm Ricardo Martinez, a former 911 dispatcher, and for years, I've been recording the voices of a hidden world, ours. I've provided a space for 911 dispatchers to share their powerful stories. It started as a peer support session and continues. Dispatchers sitting together, sharing out loud, or writing down what they couldn't say. Some stories will grip you. Stories of heartbreak, resilience, and calls that haunt us long after the line goes quiet. But imagine listening is more than heavy emotion. It's about healing. It's about laughing through the chaos, lifting each other up, and reminding the world that dispatchers are human too. The lighthearted will balance the heavy. Experience the power of storytelling, a podcast for the thin gold line and those who want to understand it. This is Imagine Listening. Your worst day is our everyday. Subscribe now wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.